A honeymoon turned into a nightmare. On October 22, 2003, during their honeymoon in Australia, Tina Watson died while scuba diving with her husband Gabe. Gabe faces suspicion of murdering her, and even though an Australian pathologist said Tina drowned, it wasn't clear if it was an accident. In Australia, Gabe admitted guilt to manslaughter and got an 18-month prison sentence. After release, he faced another murder trial in Alabama, but the case was eventually dismissed, leaving the scuba diving death unresolved in the U.S. legal system. Tina and Dave Watson were married for just 11 days when something really sad happened to Tina. After she passed away, doctors checked her body and found out she had a problem called an air embolism. This is when air bubbles get into your blood vessels and stop the blood from flowing properly. It can cause serious issues like heart attacks or trouble breathing. The doctor said Tina probably got this problem while scuba diving, maybe by staying underwater for too long or coming up to the surface too fast. That's what led to her passing away. Though Gabe Watson was a skilled diver with various certifications, despite claiming he was shocked and couldn't react when his wife panicked and knocked off his diving mask, his extensive training, including rescue diver skills, should have enabled him to handle such situations. Rescue diver training teaches dealing with panicked divers, using emergency equipment, and managing stress in others. With this training, he should have recognized signs of his wife's stress and safely brought her to the surface. During Gabe's 7-day diving trip, he had trouble with his dive computer. While underwater, he had to come up to fix it because the battery was put in the wrong way, making it beep. A dive computer is like a watch that shows how deep you go, how long you stay underwater, and your oxygen levels. To fix it, Gabe borrowed a coin from another diver to open the battery door. Later, the Australian police took Gabe's dive computer to check its data, considering it as evidence. Unfortunately, they didn't return it to him. Amanda Phillips, who's a friend of Tina, said that when Gabe returned to the United States after his wife's death, he had pictures from their trip. Gabe shared these photos at his wife's funeral, and one picture caught Amanda's attention. It showed Tina standing by a sign that said, "Caution, drowning." Amanda mentioned this during her testimony against Gabe in the American trial. Australian authorities say that Gabe told 16 different versions of what happened when Tina died. In some, she panicked underwater and knocked his mask off. In others, there were issues with his dive computer, making them isolated from the other divers. The authorities and people on the dive questioned his many stories, thinking he might be guilty. Tina and Gabe were with a group of divers in the ocean that day. Some of the other divers had cameras and recorded a video of Tina and Gabe. Later, when rescuers tried to help Tina, the other divers noticed Gabe acting oddly. When they told him she was dead, he seemed surprised and didn't act like someone who was concerned about his wife. And then, in 2008, the Australian authorities accused Gabe of causing his wife's death. Instead of going through a trial with a jury or a judge, he admitted he was guilty of accidentally causing her death because of negligence. Gabe got a 40-year prison sentence but ended up serving only 18 months. The police in Queensland, Australia think that Gabe hugged his wife underwater, which stopped her from breathing. This caused her to suffocate. After she died, he turned the air back on, swam up, and sought help. There is another theory that said both of them picked a risky dive not suitable for beginners. Tina was new to diving and felt nervous as she hadn't done it before. During Gabe's trial, the dive company owner Mike Ball said Tina should have had an orientation dive, which might have saved her. They chose a challenging spot in the Great Barrier Reef with tough conditions, and Tina's heavy equipment contributed to her inability to manage, ultimately leading to her death. And finally, Gabe, who remarried, was allowed to go free.